welcome back to Faction Wars, a New World podcast, episode number 13. My name is Taylar Allen, and we are joined this week by our longtime friend, Stephen Fontana.
Hey, it's me. What's up? What's up, guys? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited, not just for the show, not just to get into the nitty gritty, but man, do I have a weapon of the week for you. Like, I almost want to just start the show with it. I'm so excited.
No, save it.
No, I mean, yeah. We're totally going to save it, but super excited. You're going to be a very, very important member of this show tonight because I was
going to say, Stephen, I have a small bone to pick with you.
Yes, pick that bone.
We do this weekly show
yep.
called Faction Wars about this game that you're like, yeah, this game's dope. I'd love to co-host with you. Let's do it.
Yep.
I know for a fact because I can look at our company roster.
Yes,
you have not been online in 9 days.
Nope, 9 days. Yeah, it's not by choice. This little game called Pokemon happened. That happened, and honestly, I had to review a game, which I finished the review. It's out, and now I just got a review code for another game, that a pretty big indie game that's coming out next month. So I have time that I could actually not have to rush and play the whole game in a week. So I'm looking very forward, very, very forward, like super forward to getting into New World again this week. I'm very excited for it.
I'm glad.
But that doesn't mean my love for the game has waned, because I've been dying to go back. I actually, so a couple of weekends ago, I like to do these weekend channel point redemption things. These little challenges, and one of the more recent ones was the Finish the Game challenge, where I do not play any other game on stream except for the game that the community wants me to beat. So it'll be a game that I had started or whatever, and one of the choices was New World's story. I put it up there, and it lost. And
people said, New World's story. Not that interesting.
I mean, it could have been a one stream thing. That's the thing. Like, I could have got in and out, and it could have been, because I'm close.
Oh, you're right there.
Yeah,
you're basically.
I could. So I'm just gonna do it off stream, but that's okay because they picked Pokemon. Surprise, surprise. So I'll be playing that all week until I beat it.
Believe it or not, have not dedicated every single gaming moment that I have to New World like I normally do.
I don't believe you.
It's true. I've
Amazing.
been playing a game for review.
Yes. Yes.
That's interesting to say the least. Keep an eye out for that on the site.
Yay.
And then I've also been playing Nobody Saves the World, which might be an early Game of the Year contender for me.
Yeah.
It's really good, man.
Yeah,
we can talk about that on another forum.
We can because New World has a lot of new stuff to talk about.
We did get a lot of news today. First, before we get into the news though, I just want to flex a little bit.
Please do.
I am coming off the biggest high of my New World life.
Oh my.
Literally moments before we started recording this podcast, I finished up a war that our company had declared for on Brightwood.
Yeah.
And it was against the Purple faction, who, when we first transferred to the server, owned every single territory. Like, full map, totally purple, right?
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, we've been picking away at them. You know, they recently lost Everfall and Windsward, so a lot of their, like, money-generating cities are now gone. Brightwood was kind of like that last remaining, like, big three.
The bastion.
Like, you know what? We only have Restless Shores right now. We're making negative money on this territory. Let's go to a territory where we can make some cash. And so we pushed Brightwood. And we did the PvP missions. And we did the war. And we were fighting in this war, Stephen. So the way that wars are set up, you have to capture the 3 outside points. It's like, a domination type thing.
Right.
You capture the 3 outside points, and then once you do that, everyone rushes to the fort, and there's like a main central point that you have to take, all within 30 minutes.
Ooh.
And so we're fighting. We take the first point really quick. First 5 minutes or so, we take this point.
And that's not normal, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of. It's easy to split up enough groups and get their rotations off to where you can just like catch them off guard and sneak a point real quick. So
Okay.
within 5 minutes, like it's within a normal range of outcomes, right? But then we're stalemating, right? We're fighting on B, and we're just fighting on B the entire time, just hitting our head against this rock, and then we're getting kind of demoralized. There's like 5 minutes left, meaning we went 20 minutes just fighting on this one point. We're like, you know what? Shift it over to A, full group push to A, and this small little contingency of like 6 people
Hmm.
stayed behind and started back capping B at the same time. We get this
Ooh.
super fast turnaround on A. We get A capped and B like 3/4 of the way capped within a minute and a half. So we're at a minute 30. We have B basically taken, A's taken.
Hey, Purple, do you even try? Like, come
Exactly.
on, man.
But at this point, like the fort fight is one of the hardest. We've made it to the fort before with like 10, 12 minutes and haven't been able to win. And so like we're like, well, let's just, push it to the end, right? We hurry, we take B, everyone's running into the fort. They have their full force out, our full force out, and so it's just like a race to the fort. Okay. And we get in, we start throwing our CCs down and doing all the thing, and some people are going up on the wall, and we're like, you know what? No, fuck it. Everyone get on point. Let's just try and speed cap this thing. And we all dive on point with 23 seconds left. We
Oh
take the
man.
fort and claim the territory.
Wow.
It was the most exhilarating war I've been in my entire life. It was insane.
Who's the
I played
MVP?
like shit. It was horrible. Not me. I was very bad. I was very bad. I was getting targeted the entire fight. They had their sniper team just
Well,
deadlocked on
you
a
served the
Taylar, so
purpose,
it was
right?
tough.
You you served the purpose. You did
I was a
distraction.
body. Yep. I was a body for them to target.
So who was the MVP? Do you have a shout out you want to give to our MVP?
Yeah, so actually the governor of our company, his username in game is NightmanX. He actually made the call for that small contingency group to stay behind and cap B while we push over to A. And if he hadn't have made that call, they would have been able to regroup at B, and we wouldn't have been able to win that fight.
That's
So
wonderful.
yeah, that call to have that small group stay behind, it was just small enough that it didn't draw the attention of like a rotate group, but it was just big enough to win the fight there. So it was good.
Nice. Well,
And now we have a new
congratulations to
home.
us.
Yes,
I love being just a little peasant that
discounts on housing.
gets to, just enjoy the fruits of
Yeah,
your labor.
yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right, let's get into the news. Enough gloating about us winning this war. By the way, I just want to
News
say
world.
News World. One of my New Year, New World, new resolutions was to win an attacking war for our company.
You did it.
That has been done. Check.
You did it.
I'm sorry. I have COVID, so I'm
Do
trying
you
not
really?
to cough. Yeah, I do.
Oh
I have
no.
COVID. So,
You didn't tell me.
hey, I have COVID.
I could have done the show. Man.
I'm fine.
All
Fine.
right.
I'm trying not to cough into the mic, but just know sometimes it attacks me mid sentence. So either you'll hear
It's
an
supposed to.
awkward silence.
It's one of those involuntary actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna happen. So let's get you through this show. I mean, do you need me to
Let's do it.
read
I feel
stuff?
no. I feel fine.
Okay.
I'm chilling. We're
Okay,
good.
you're chilling.
February PTR announcement, Stephen. The title of this show that I put in the doc is "They're listening, but is it enough?" So
Okay.
we talked last week about the shit show that was the mutators update,
Yes.
the new bugs that they somehow just find out of nowhere.
Yeah,
They're just like,
they
hey,
released
this worked
the
perfectly
bugs.
fine before. Let's break it.
How do we break it? We'll figure it out. It'll be done.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it obviously is getting very frustrating. And with the month of February upon us, you had already mentioned, a big game, Pokemon Arceus, that is.
It was a
coming
game
out.
that came out. Yeah, I've been playing it.
Yeah, we have Lost Ark, which for those MMO dorks,
Dorks.
could be
Sorry.
interesting. We've got Elden Ring at the end of the month. We've got Horizon. Like there's a bunch of really good games coming up
Correct.
this month and next month. So like the population in New World is kind of feeling it, right?
Right.
And people are like, these devs aren't listening, nothing's happening. They put out this patch, shit goes wild. They put out a couple of things today that are like, okay, they are listening, and they're listening very closely and actually making and implementing these changes that players are wanting.
Mm.
But I want to know if you think that it's enough. So first, February PTR. We knew that this PTR was going to be entirely about fixing bugs, bots, things like that, right?
Right. That was
They had
well
mentioned that
established.
in the dev update. No new content. This is about fixing stuff.
Yep.
Some of their big highlights that they have on here. The weapon swapping bug, which was a real pain in the ass for PvP.
Yes. That was the one where you can just like spam off moves a lot quicker. Right? That was that one.
So this one was that weapon swapping would not get queued properly.
Ooh,
and so
okay.
Your character, like your UI would show that you switch weapons,
Yeah,
but your character would still be holding the other weapon. And so you would go to press an ability and you'd like shoot your heal out of your rapier or whatever and do
That's a sentence you just said.
the animation. Yeah. And it just like it was super confusing to know what weapon you were actually on.
Right.
So that is like one of the big things they're focusing on. This is super, super important for PvP. To keep the PvP dorks happy, because there's a lot of weapons that combo really well together.
Right.
But you have to be able to efficiently switch weapons to get that combo down, right?
Right, of course.
So this is one of the big things that they are that they're targeting. They are implementing a cooldown on weapon swap, so you can't just hurry and spam swap back and forth super fast. So you can swap once at normal speed, but then they're putting a cooldown on it so that people don't like abuse macros.
Do you know what that's gonna screw, right? Me hitting the weapon swap button accidentally multiple times while I play.
Oh yeah,
because it happens.
It's only a 1 second cooldown, but
does that affect like the combos? You know what I mean? Like the timing of the combos?
No, typically you have like your like lead-in weapon.
Right.
This will be a weapon that you like, like the Great Axe's charge ability,
right,
or a gravity well or something. So you'll do that to like hold him in place, or with the Void Gauntlet, you'll put down Oblivion to give yourself Empower. Then you'll switch to another weapon that'll be like your main like finisher / damage dealer.
Right.
So you'll have like a CC, and then you'll have a
crowd control,
an attack, or you'll have folks. Yes, or like for me, who uses Life Staff Rapier in PvP. You'll have your heals, but then if you get jumped on, you switch to Rapier for defensiveness and escaping.
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to quickly switch to one weapon is good. You don't typically see a lot of like back and forth between that. And it's only a 1 second cooldown, so you wouldn't even be able to like get something off in enough time.
I've been known to get something off very quickly. I'll just have you know.
Yeah.
I will have you know. No, it's beautiful. my jacket when I get home from work.
Oh, gotcha.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, yes. But yeah, that's like one of the big ones. They also are changing some things with dodging and blocking, which I think is going to make everyone super happy. So they have shortened the length of recovery on all dodges, light, medium, and heavy. So that will allow you to dodge and get moving a lot quicker, so that should feel more fluid. I know a lot of people will switch to light gear so that they can dodge and then weapon swap cancel so that they get out of that animation early.
Right.
It sounds like they're just getting out of that recovery animation altogether now.
Mm-hmm.
So you should just be able to dodge and get right back into it.
Now,
at all weights.
Does that okay? How does that is the differentiation of the weight, the armor classes still good enough with that change? Like, is it still different enough?
Because light, you still have like the roll. Medium, you have kind of like that like jump and then heavy, it's still just kind of
It's
like
just
that
the
small
sides.
hop.
It's like a sidestep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So yeah, I do think it's still significant enough that it's worthwhile.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. They're also changing the way that blocking works and animation canceling. So you can animation cancel with either a dodge or a block out of any basic attack startup, both
Okay.
melee and ranged, up to
Interesting.
2 frames before the first active frame, which in dev speak means the up to 2 frames before whatever you do can actually hurt something.
Okay. Can you? All right. So
So
frames for a non frame watcher. Does that make a big deal? Like, do you notice it?
I
Like,
think it'll be noticeable.
yeah. Okay.
Being able to like start a heavy attack and then dodge out of it or something before you actually get it off
Okay.
will I
Yeah.
think will be good. They're also making some changes to jumping, where if you jump off of lower height objects, let's say like a small rock,
Mhm.
you don't have that full landing
That full
animation that you have to
superhero
do.
animation.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Fucking
able to
annoying.
like get going a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
There's also some significant weapon balancing changes. I haven't been able to look through all of the exact changes, but some of the things that they call out here in particular is Fire Staff's getting a little bit of a buff. They're reworking
Okay.
the way that Gravity Well works for the Great Axe. They're also reworking a bunch of the musket abilities.
Yeah, the musket seems to be the new OP of choice. Like I've seen a lot of people, especially in PvP, that
Yeah.
the musket and the hammer are pretty much like must haves. Probably for, I don't know, sniping out healers and just causing
Yeah.
havoc. So
Yeah.
what before you tell me what the true fixes are, did you think there was a problem with them? Do you think they needed to be balanced or
I do,
rebalanced?
yeah. I think, and a lot of these are just like reworking of the abilities, not even
Okay.
necessarily they're just like
Right.
um changing numbers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um so for example, they made it so that the fireball on the fire staff can now critical hit, which is super important because like
Yeah.
one of the core tenets of the fire staff is getting crits. Like there are 4 or 5 different passives that are all about getting crits and crits causing burn and stuff like that.
Right.
And so having like one of these core like super important abilities on Fire Staff be able to crit like is really cool. It's also like changing the amount of recovery frames needed for certain abilities, like Pillar of Fire on the Fireball.
Okay.
They've reduced the recovery frames pretty significantly, so you can cast it a lot quicker. So it'll feel more fluid. But overall, I feel like they've done a fairly good job with weapon balancing and getting things into a good place.
Mm.
I will say, very notably, not a lot of changes to the Void Gauntlet. The
Mm.
Void Gauntlet is a little bit of a problem. Like
Okay.
it's so good that we're talking about having 20 or 30 Void Gauntlets in every war, right?
Ooh.
Because it debuffs, it cancels healing, it has a root, it has a stun, it applies rend, which allows your team to deal increased damage on a target.
Mm.
It provides stamina regen for tanks with the Oblivion ability, and it has natural life regeneration through one of its passives.
Do you
So
think it needs to have less of that, or do you think the numbers for which it does those things needs to come down? Like, does it need to be
I
one of
think
those jack of all trades, master of none type situations where it's like, yeah, it's good to have this, but like, it's not as good as this, being a true healer or a true whatever, you know? You get what I'm saying?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it needs to lose some of its utility because it can do literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so as nice as that utility is in PvE instances,
Mm-hmm.
in PvP, it's not super balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like being able to root, rend, and negate healing on top of doing really strong damage and giving life leech to the person who's doing that damage to
Mm-hmm.
you, like it's all too much.
It's
I
a
think
little
they need to
unfair.
get rid of like two of those things. Yeah.
Okay.
On top of also regenerating your tank stamina like passively, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's like it just does so much. So I think they need to do a tuning pass on it. And maybe remove some of its utility or rework some of its abilities so that they are not as strong. And really, the strength comes from the weapon perks that you can get on like your armor rolls. It's not even necessarily from the tree
Mm-hmm.
itself, but things like nullifying oblivion. So when you put oblivion down, that's the one that makes it so all of the healing circles that people are standing in don't heal anymore.
Yeah.
Um, or putrefying scream, where if you scream someone, it roots them. They also have disease, so they take 30% less healing. Um, and I think having a weapon that like directly countermines the like healing meta that we saw at the beginning of the game is valuable and important, but it just does a little too much right now.
Yeah, it sounds like it's one of those, like, if you're really good at the game, you're gonna figure out how to really like exploit this
Yeah.
weapon to its
Well,
max, which is who
we
are doing wars, right?
yeah, well, and we've started seeing people like tanks using it and people using the great axe using it, even though it doesn't scale off of any of those stats that those people would be normally concerned about. They just don't put any stats in and just have the weapon for its utility.
That's weird.
Yeah, because you can get a 3-second root on an enemy and they get 30% reduced healing. And so you can just cut them down with your great axe, you know?
Mm.
You scream them, hold them in place, switch to your great axe, game over. So,
Yeesh.
yeah, it just
You're
has
not
a
you're not making a
little.
very enticing case for me to join a war. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
Shit's
it's
scary.
chaotic. Yes. Um, but overall, I think the tuning past the weapons will be good. They're also fixing a couple of broken abilities, um, like there's an ability on the Ice Gauntlet called Punishing Storm,
Mm-hmm.
that was supposed to increase the amount of damage that the like dome ability from the Ice Gauntlet does.
Mm-hmm.
Increase the amount of damage that that ability does for the number of people that are standing in it. So like, oh yeah, that's great. That's great for like AOE cleave of like a big group of enemies. But
Right.
actually, what it did was increase the damage on all of those enemies that were standing in it for every attack that you do to them.
Perfect.
So people would just put the dome down and then switch to their great axe and immediately get, you know, 15% increased damage or whatever, or 20% increased damage. I can't remember.
Here's the thing. Like, I feel like that's something that should have been caught. You know,
Yes.
before it became what it is.
Keep in mind, new thing. This has not been in since launch.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
Right.
I just we continue finding
I
new
don't know.
bugs.
I feel bad like nitpicking. I feel like I'm nitpicking, but like at the same
Me
time,
too.
it's kind of like a normal, like, I just feel like they're very easy things that, like, you should know when something is that broken before people have to bring it to your attention that it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't make games, so I can't pretend that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. I just feel like in everyday life, you know what I mean? Everyday life, you should probably know when something's broken before you just put it out in the world. But okay, I digress. Continue.
Yep. A couple of other updates and changes that they're making. So we talked about last week these mutators and why it was making it so that all of the other content was kind of getting pushed to the wayside because people were trying to power level. They heard the outcry and are making Outpost Rush, which is the 20v20 like PvP casual game mode.
It's what I'm most interested in, to be honest.
Yeah, it will now reward Umbral shards. So you don't
Ooh,
just have to grind the same mutated dungeons over and over
nice.
again to be able to progress your end game gear, which is very, very welcome.
That's
On
yeah.
top of that, they're adding curated armor and weapon pieces to the reward crates from Outpost Rush um, that are more PvP focused. So they're removing certain abilities like Beast Ward, for example, because you're not fighting beasts in PvP.
Okay.
Um, which is really good. They're also shrinking that pool of rewards so that you'll get better rewards more often. And they are adding a rare tier of reward for jewelry as well that is more PvP focused. So,
Hmm.
super excited about that. I think adding a rewarding system for endgame PvP players so they don't have to grind the same dungeon over and over again is awesome. And something
That
that
sure would be
people,
nice.
yeah, something that people immediately when this last update came out were like, this needs to be implemented right away.
Well, good. At least they were,
Yeah.
it was it. Yeah, it feels like it was just a quick reaction, but like, I always wonder if it's like, oh yeah, we know that we're gonna do this at some point, but we want to get this content out, and then we'll add and fix everything else after that. Like, I just hope it's not that. It seems like they're really just listening and like realize. Why do we have a test realm? Why do we have that? It's very confusing to me.
To like test this stuff out.
Yeah, but
I,
but
I'm
then they come out
misunderstanding.
and then they
Yeah.
need to be fixed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Well.
it's like,
Yeah.
I guess it's cuz not enough people are in the PTR like, and they just don't get that wide net. Like, not everyone's a huge nerd like you and goes into the
Yeah.
PTR and like tries to mess with everything. I don't
Well,
know.
I actually saw someone post on Reddit. We talked about this a little bit last week, I think. But like went into this in-depth explanation of how importing certain world states should flow and how they think
Yes, yeah.
Amazon Game Studios is doing it,
Yeah.
which is causing these bugs that aren't on the PTR and like are never seen prior to these updates to actually like
Yeah.
show their face when the full release comes out because it like isn't flowing through correctly or whatever. So it like
yeah, I was actually thinking about that like right before we went on. That's so great. I hope that guy gets a job
I
there.
agree.
You know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. Couple other changes, really quick from the patch notes for the PTR.
Mm-hmm.
One, progression and leveling for crafting, specifically arcana, armoring, engineering, furnishing, jewel crafting, and weaponsmithing, has been decreased by 10%. You need 10% less overall XP
Oh, that's always good.
for the professions. Yeah, which is good. So if you're planning on getting to the final stages of that, save your materials, wait for this update to come out so that you can level a little bit quicker. They also added a number of additional rewards and schematics into the game that have not been in the game yet. Um, things like new weapon, um, epic and legendary schematics, new housing items, new muskets, um, and also fix a couple of loot pools on enemies that were not dropping level appropriate gear. They employed a new measure to reduce effectiveness of fishing bots, which
Oh, okay.
not
Not
sure.
an additional
Yeah,
measure or a different measure.
it just says new measure.
Mm. Cuz punishing people who are just fishing so they can level up that fishing as a measure to get rid of bots not working. Can we not do that anymore?
Yeah,
Please.
gotta wiggle when you're fishing. They also added smelting gear into the game, which has not been in the game previously.
Expound.
So all of the other refining types, weaving, woodworking, tanning, stone cutting, all had a set of armor that you could put on that overall would increase the probability of you getting
Okay.
additional procs on
Okay.
what you're refining by 10%.
Mm.
So if you're at max level plus have these sets for the highest tier of refining that you're doing, you would have a 30% proc on additional rewards for the resources you're putting in.
Okay.
But smelting didn't have a set. It was the
Mm.
only one that didn't. Now it does. So
Nice.
when you're refining your orichalcum or your asmodium or whatever, you have a higher likelihood of getting more. Actually, asmodium you wouldn't because it's just 10. You don't get more than that. But anything else, you know what I'm saying.
I do.
So,
I do know what you're saying. Listen, anything that's going to make crafting more accessible, more fun, and more fruitful, I'm down for. No matter what.
And then a whole shitload of UI and polish changes. They are also adding a trade chat to the different chat channels
Smart.
so that people don't stop, so that people will stop peddling their goods in global chat,
Smart.
which I think is great. Yeah. Overall, though, I think the changes that they highlight here are very good. One of my favorites. Sorry, I just saw this. Addressing multiple grammar mistakes on quests and crafting stations. That was in the patch notes. Good job.
Now, I have a very, very, very important question to ask you.
Okay.
And I want you to get your pencil ready or your show notes or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Over under 3 new bugs when this is like officially like out in the public for like 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, whatever. The over under 3.
You mean the PTR or the actual release?
No, when it actually when these fixes hit the game and we're enjoying it. How over under is 3 new completely ridiculous bugs that they're going to need to fix. Are you taking the over or the under?
3 new.
Brand new.
I need you to do it Vegas style because I'm leaning
2.5
one way. Yeah.
Okay.
I need you to put it on a half, and that'll determine my answer.
Okay, 2.5.
Over.
Interesting. Okay.
I think there are 3 new fuck ups that are significant enough that people will notice them after this new update.
Yeah.
Maybe all of our houses will be floating in the air next time. Who knows? Would not surprise me.
Everybody gets a 1,000% boost to their crafting because they move the decimal too far.
Yeah,
It's just everybody's just crafting legendary items, flooding the market.
If that was the case, shut the fuck up. Okay? No, it didn't.
Just say
it
nothing.
Didn't happen. Don't talk about it. There had better not be a single Reddit post about this shit. Okay?
No, every streamer just ignores it. Don't say it to your chat. Nothing. Don't
just
delete VOD. Everything. Yeah.
Yes. Shut the fuck up.
Agreed.
But yeah, I wanted to highlight this, and specifically call out our episode title because they are making changes that the community is asking for. The problem is it feels like they're not listening, right? Because this patch comes out. It's been out for 2 weeks now. Well, it's been out for a little over a week now, I guess, at the time of recording. This patch comes out. There's a bunch of game-breaking bugs. Radio silence on the forums. No dev blogs. No official news. Nothing. Like, they keep it like real tight-lipped. They make it so that you can't see the population of your server anymore. So like, fuck, they're just giving up on this shit, right?
Oh, that sucks.
Just totally radio silent. And then they come out with these patch notes and they're like, oh shit, this is everything that we've been talking about. Like, I wish they would have said, even in just like a short forum post, like, hey, we hear you. We're working on something. Keep an eye out for some news next week, kind of a thing. But it's just radio silence and then patch notes and then radio silence and then patch notes. And I feel like that cadence is really throwing people off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to know if you feel like this from a more casual player's perspective, and I don't mean that pejoratively.
No,
Um,
it's
but
that's what I think makes this show so nice, is because you, like, I feel like the dynamic is you are the hardcore, I'm the casual, and you are trying to not convert me, but like get me excited about the minutia and all of that stuff, and I'm reminding you of the other things that are enjoyable and the reason why we keep coming back, just like from a base standpoint. Like, because like,
yes.
again, just being in the world, having fun, doing stupid stuff, doing quests, like seeing the numbers go up, like that's the fun to me.
Yeah.
And learning something new every single time I play about how a system works with each other is still exciting to me. So for like outside looking in, I never feel like yes, more transparency is always good. I would always want your devs, especially in a living game like this, to be out there in the forefront and get ahead of it and make those. And yes, we're listening, we're doing, but I think it might be smarter for them to keep things a little bit vague so that they don't overpromise and underdeliver. Because we know what the community can do. The community is more likely to act positively to no news and then good patches and fixes than promises of good patches and fixes and then getting less than they thought. Because it looks like there are still other issues that they have to fix. And if they would have said, we're working on it, we hear you, everybody would assume that all of these were going to be fixed. That's just because it's extremes. Like, that's how hardcore communities react. They don't react in nuance. They don't have that. They have extremes. They have all or nothing, 100% or 0%. You could see it even in like I'm in a Facebook group for New World, and you either have people that are literally live in that Facebook group just to shit on New World. Like, that's why they're there. It's to be like, oh, I left like 3 months ago, whatever. And then there's the people who are like, oh, hi, I'm new to the game. Can anybody help? And then like somebody's like, yeah, play WoW instead, or like whatever. Yeah. So it's these two extremes, and I think the devs have to be cognizant of that and know that they can't say they're going to fix something and then, not deliver that, or deliver it in a way that we're not expecting. If they tell us nothing and then all these fixes come out, pleasantly surprised, yeah. Tell us that you're going to, I think saying that they're going to use this month to fix as much as possible and then slowly roll out these little changes, I think is a smart way of doing it. And then maybe at the end of February, or like the second week or the third week, of February, start setting up March, and the expectations. And then you could hone in and really dial in on what you're going to do in a more specific way, so that you're not over promising. Because I'm sure they already know what they're going to do for March, obviously. So they could say, okay, well, what works? That's the other thing. And this is game dev, man. They're changing all these systems. How are these going to screw up what they want to do in March? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not from a bugs perspective, just like legit mechanics. Like, what if like the items that they were going to have be as rewards for, a new dungeon or whatever, like, what if they all have to be adjusted now because the stats all work differently, or like craft, like all the rewards. I don't know, that makes me so anxious for them as people, as a person, having that on their responsibilities. But that's sort of where I am with it, if that makes any sense, any logical sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like, based off of all of our conversations and based off of where you're at with the game, that what they're doing and the direction that they're trying to go is sustainable long term?
For bug fixes, yes. They can't do this with like major content changes, like, or stuff like that. No, I think they need to be way more transparent with that kind of stuff, because that's what's going to keep your player base engaged long term. But the bug fixes and stuff, as long as we know that you're reliable and you're going to work on them reliably, and you're not just like like we keep going to Apex, but that's like the first real game of service that I got into really hardcore outside of like an MMO back in like 2005. But even then, like back in those MMO days, like it was, you waited for a big content release, and then it was a massive 30 gig patch, and then it would patch, and then you would have all this new stuff. But for Apex, like they would go months without even acknowledging that there were bugs. Like the sound, like how long were we complaining about the sound in that game? You know what I mean?
Still.
And they did rework it too. Like that's the scary part. But, you know, it took them like a long time to finally say, hey, we're going to work on these bugs. They would just come out with these minor little patch notes, yada, yada. We fixed this, we whatever. But until they said that they were going to work on the quality of the game in that aspect, we heard nothing from them on it. So I think I think it's like kind of in the middle there between these two.
I will say them coming out in that very first dev update thing they did in December, and like putting their figurative dick on the table and being like, yeah, February is for bots, bugs, and polish, and like sticking to that, and like acknowledging right off the rip, like, yeah, our game is full of fucking bugs and full of bots and full of like all these wonky things, and we're gonna spend an entire month focusing on that kind of a thing. Like, I think that goes a long way, because not a lot of devs would do that, right? Not a lot of them would come out like ahead of it, a couple months ahead of it, and say, hey, we understand our game is buggy as fuck right now. There's a lot of issues you guys have. We're planning on addressing it. There are a couple things we're focusing on, you know, with this February patch kind of a thing. I think that does deserve a tip of the cap, because not a lot of studios are that transparent, right?
Yeah. Although it is getting better, but yes, no, a lot of them are. It's you know, ghost town until, or the whole time. It could be a ghost town until you're like, okay, I beat the game. Now what? Like there have been games that have gotten patches after I've completed the game, and I'm like, well, that would have been helpful. Thanks a lot, you know. But at least we're not getting that.
Yeah, totally. All right, Stephen.
Yes.
Let's take it home. I know you're very excited.
Oh my God. Let me tell you how excited I am.
Tell me about this weapon, man.
You gotta follow me on this.
Okay, I'm ready.
Dog collar.
I'm sorry?
Dog collar.
No, I heard you.
Okay. So the weapon that you have is a dog collar that goes on your dog companion.
Okay.
And depending on the collar is what the collar is the weapon. The dog is the animation. Do you understand? So
no,
okay. So it's a pet that comes out with you, and it is your weapon. So it's a ranged weapon where you point and the dog goes and does like a swipe or like a bite or whatever. That's like a main attack. It has two trees. It has the stealth, quick kind of hit in and out tree, and then it has the stout, like stand your ground, get in there and like wrestle the guys to the ground tree. So the dogs are dogs, but it's the collar that makes them the weapon. If that makes, you know what I mean? So like when
do you have like an army of dogs?
You have one
like
dog.
A singular dog.
You have one dog.
What happened when dog die?
Dog don't die. Dog is a weapon, not a thing.
Okay.
You take the damage when you know the dog is a weapon. So the enemy is still going to try and hit you. Your dog is basically like a projectile or like an AoE. So like you'll send the dog will be tripping or trying to bring down the enemies. The enemies are still coming after you, but the AoE is in effect over there. It's just in the shape of a dog. You understand?
Okay.
So you still have doggo friend, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome because pets are like totally good idea. Like I love that just the idea of just going out there with a dog. But like enemies could drop like, oh, the iron spiked column or collar of the necromancer, and like your dog could have leech life, you know, or something like that, you know, like something cool, you know, and you know,
so each of these collars gives you a different looking dog.
It's a different collar on the dog. Like you can do.
It's the same looking dog.
So it would probably be.
So I can't have like a demon fire dog.
I think you can. Oh no, I think you can. I think we could mess with that. Yeah, for sure. I think that would be a cool way to augment it. It would be a lot of work, but maybe the legendaries.
I was gonna say, like, obviously all of the like tier 3,
right,
tier 4, you're getting the same fucking Burmese mountain dog.
Right.
On all of them.
You're getting, yeah, exactly. You're getting what's his name's dog puppies. Yeah, for sure. But like you get a legendary, like, yeah, this dog is dope.
Fucking
like
Cujo.
Like what if you could get one that's like, what if they were elemental themed, you know?
Yeah.
And like their base damage is like ice, and now you got like a giant fucking husky, you know?
Uh-huh.
But it's just a weapon. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just it's basically a skin for a multifaceted, like, magical half melee, half ranged AoE weapon. Like if you're making it base, it's like having your a gauntlet, but it's attached to a dog, and it has fun utility. Like it can have passives, like your weapon could start attacking before you even want to attack. Like maybe it has its own mind where it'll be like, I see something you don't, and I'm gonna go attack it, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that might get you in trouble, but you know what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think cool. Just seeing a bunch of dogs running around, that'd be fucking dope.
I'm not 100% sold on this. I need an idea of like what some of these abilities would be.
Okay, so we'll do. Do you want to do one tree?
Yeah.
Okay, so
like what do these attacks look like?
All right, so the first one is going to be a tackle. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be called Sick'em. Mm-hmm. So you're going to aim your weapon, just like you would an arrow or whatever. That's where your dog is going to go. Your dog's going to leap and tackle and knock down the target.
Okay.
It takes damage. It's a simple thing. You could switch to your other weapon, but when you're clicking and just clicking for damage, your dog is just going to bite.
Okay.
While it's there, engaged. But the knockdown, right?
I see. So you can send your dog out, and you click, and the dog's biting, but you're not there.
You're not there.
Like in the
no. But if your dog, but yeah, so it's the same as a ranged weapon. Like you're not going to get attacked unless the thing hits you either with a ranged weapon because it's attacking you, or a melee weapon. So it's the same thing as like shooting an arrow.
Yeah. How do you see who's doing the dog thing?
The person that is the dog trainer or the dog owner is clearly not going to have a weapon, but is also going to have their arm stretched out like in the direction or whatever. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like just like they're casting or like casting something.
Do they like, in order to balance this, do they like move slower as they're commanding this dog?
Oh yeah, it's like your ADS. It's like ADS.
Like you're in a casting animation or something like that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because you're yelling commands. You're commanding your dog.
Yeah.
And they'll have normal like the dog will, it's normal cooldowns. You're gonna have to finish saying the command is like kind of like aiming and pulling back your bow kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then so the other one will be pin. So this will be it's very similar to the takedown, except it's going to be keeping them in place. So you take down, they could get up and they could walk towards you, or you could do the pin where the dog will now keep the enemies down for an extended period of time in which you could get some other hits off.
They have like a root effect or something.
Right. Okay. And then the other one could be like vicious bite, where it just causes massive bleeding. It's like one of those heavy attacks that causes massive bleeding. Has a nice little cooldown, something like that. Another one could be, let's think. So another one could be like a stealthy attack that if you're not seen and you use this ability, it's an auto crit no matter where you hit the enemy, like something like that. So as long as the dog isn't seen, or you, or the, whatever your weapon, but like your dog, I picture it like your animation as you're walking with the weapon is like you're walking with like this short little leash, and the dog is like right next to you all the time. And then when it's time to fight, like you kind of let the leash go and like point, and like he's saying like, or your character's like saying different commands and stuff. And then you could have elemental stuff like if you have vicious bite, but you have fire damage, it's obviously going to do bleeding and burn, right? So that's cool. Maybe you could even have like lick, where it slows the opponent. It doesn't like pin them, but it slows their movement. Kind of like a paralyzing, like Lickitung, the Pokemon. What else? Intimidate. You could have an ability that, or a passive that makes enemies afraid to pass the dog. So like if the dog is engaged in an enemy, say 10 yards in front of you, nothing will pass that 10-yard line while the dog is attacking, because it's afraid to. For a short period, to maybe like 3 seconds, whatever. It has like a fear buff to it or something. I don't know. Yeah. There's different utilities you can have.
I'm not 100% sold on this.
Interesting. Okay.
But I'm also not opposed to it.
You gotta see it. You gotta see. Yeah. You gotta. I get it.
It's a lot.
It's different. It's very different. That is what I feel is the true hurdle here. Like telling people the new weapon is a dog collar would be a weird sell.
Yeah, 100%.
But
100%.
I think I could do
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Faction Wars this week.
Yes, thank you.
If you would like to support Faction Wars and you're listening on a podcast service that allows for reviews, we would love it if you would go leave us a review. It helps us out a ton. If you're listening on a podcast service that doesn't allow for reviews, go find your old iPad that's collecting dust in a drawer.
It exists. We all know
it. Make sure you update the app so that you can download podcasts. Download an episode of Faction Wars. Let it play overnight. Okay? And then come back the next day, leave a review.
Accurate.
If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, sub to the YouTube channel. All of that stuff helps us out a ton. We have a ton of content coming out for Dual Screens in the year of our Lord 2022 over on YouTube. So definitely check that out. And if you want to support us even more, you're like, hey, these guys are idiots, but they're idiots worth $1. You can go to patreon.com/NDS podcasts and support us over there, just like our Patreon producers did. FNH Paul, Colton, The Apprentice Nestler, and Vegas Girl on Fire. This show literally would not exist without the generous contributions from our patrons. So we thank you very, very much. And until next time, look out for them dogs, man.
Yeah.